Rain lashed against the tall glass windows of James Holt's penthouse, a restless rhythm echoing through the hollow rooms. Inside, the air was thick with tension and pride. James stood motionless, his reflection caught between the lightning flashes outside. He looked powerful, composed, untouchable, the kind of man who built empires with bare hands and an iron will. But across the room, Lana trembled. Her voice was steady, yet soft as she said, "I did not come for help, James. I only thought you deserved to know." Her hand instinctively brushed her stomach, and for a fleeting second, something inside him faltered. Then his jaw tightened. "You shouldn't have come here," he said sharply. "You knew from the start I wasn't the man for this." Lana's eyes glistened. "This is not about us. This is about what's right," she whispered. He turned away, his tone sharp as glass. "Right? You think it's right to throw this at me now?" His words were cold, but his heartbeat wasn't. Still, he hit it well. The world outside roared, and so did his fear. When she took a trembling breath and said, "James, this is your child," he froze. Then came the words that would haunt him forever. "I don't owe you or your child anything." The room went silent. Only the rain spoke. Lana didn't cry or argue. She looked at him with quiet heartbreak and said, "You'll regret this someday." Then she left. The sound of the door closing was louder than thunder. James told himself it was for the best. But as he stood there in the flickering city lights, something heavy pressed against his chest. He had conquered every storm in business, but that night he created one in his soul that would never stop raging. 2 years passed, yet those words never stopped echoing in James Holt's mind. Success had followed him like a loyal shadow. Magazine covers, corporate awards, endless deals signed under his name. But every celebration felt empty, every smile rehearsed. At night, when the city lights faded and silence filled the air, he could still see her face, the way Lana's eyes had dimmed right before she walked away. He told himself he had done what was necessary. He had protected his empire, his image, his freedom, but deep down, he knew he had destroyed something far greater than all of it, his peace. One cold morning, as James sat in his office reviewing reports, his secretary mentioned a name that made his pen freeze mid-air. A charity request came through Lana Grace Foundation. It helps children with health complications. They're requesting donations for hospital care. The sound of her name struck him like lightning. He dismissed the secretary quickly, but his pulse raced. That night, he found himself searching online, eyes scanning every page until he saw her picture. Lana standing outside a small hospital holding 3 little girls with identical blue eyes. His breath caught. They looked so much like him that his chest tightened painfully. He zoomed in on the photo, unable to look away. For the first time in years, he felt something real: guilt, longing, and a strange kind of fear. He had built walls around his life, but one image cracked them all. He closed the laptop, yet sleep never came. Somewhere in that same hospital, a nurse whispered to Lana that one of her daughters might need surgery soon. Lana smiled through her worry, unaware that the man who once turned his back was finally losing control of his heart. The next morning, James could not focus. Every document on his desk blurred, every word on the screen felt meaningless. His mind kept replaying that image. Lana surrounded by those 3 little girls, their innocent smiles piercing the armor he had spent years building. By afternoon, he found himself driving with no destination in mind, his thoughts louder than the traffic. He had once believed he could bury the past beneath luxury and ambition, but the past had found him again, alive, breathing, and looking back through the eyes of children he had denied. He stopped the car outside a hospital, not the one from the photo, but one nearby, staring at the entrance as if courage could walk out and guide him. Instead, fear greeted him, fear of facing her, fear of being too late. That night, unable to resist, he searched again for the foundation and called the number listed. A gentle voice answered, "Lana Grace Foundation, how can I help you?" His throat tightened. It wasn't her voice, but hearing her name out loud stirred something deep within him. He hung up before speaking, heart racing like a guilty man caught in his own silence. Across town, Lana was working late. She folded tiny clothes, her daughters already asleep beside her. The smallest one, Lily, stirred weakly, her breathing uneven. Lana touched her forehead gently and whispered, "You'll be okay, my love." She did not know that the man who once rejected them was sitting alone in his high-rise office, staring at the rain just as he had the night he lost her. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" The city outside glittered, but his world had never felt darker. Something inside him whispered that fate was not finished with him yet. Days turned into restless nights, and James could no longer pretend everything was fine. The boardroom, once his kingdom, now felt like a cage. His assistant noticed the change, the long silences, the missed meetings, the way he stared out the window as if waiting for someone who would never come. One evening, he drove for hours until he reached the coastal town listed under the foundation's address. The ocean wind was sharp, and the air carried the faint scent of salt and rain. For the first time in years, James felt small. He parked near a small community hospital and sat there, watching people come and go, until he saw her, Lana. She was holding a child's hand, tiny, fragile, with bright blue eyes that mirrored his own. His chest tightened as he realized it was not one child, but three, all walking beside her in small coats, laughter echoing faintly. They looked happy despite the modest life around them. He stayed hidden, afraid to approach, afraid of what she might say. Or worse, what she might not. He watched as they entered the hospital, and something inside him broke. He had power, money, and respect, but in that moment, he had never felt more powerless. Later, he found himself inside that same hospital, walking quietly through the corridor until he heard the nurse mention a name, Lily Grace. The words froze him. "Her condition is stable for now, but we'll need help for the upcoming treatment," the nurse told Lana. James's heart pounded as he watched from afar. The smallest girl lay asleep on the bed, a small tube attached to her wrist. Lana brushed her daughter's hair back gently, whispering words only a mother could say. James stepped back, guilt clawing at his throat. He had spent years running from responsibility, but here was the truth. Tiny, innocent, and fighting to live. And for the first time, he wanted to stay. James stood frozen outside the hospital room, his hand resting against the wall as if holding himself together. The soft sound of the heart monitor echoed in his ears, each beep like a reminder of every wrong choice he had made. Through the small glass window he could see Lana sitting beside Lily's bed, her hand gently stroking the child's hair. The twins slept on the couch, curled up under a blanket, unaware that their father stood just a few steps away. James felt his throat tighten, his breath uneven. He wanted to walk in, to say something, anything, but fear kept him still. He had faced ruthless investors, unpredictable markets, and global press conferences without flinching. Yet one woman and 3 small girls had brought him to his knees. When the doctor approached, James quickly stepped aside. "She's been responding well," the doctor told Lana softly. "But the next surgery will be expensive. We'll try to find support through the charity network." Lana nodded with quiet strength, her eyes tired but steady. That simple exchange shattered him. Without thinking, James walked to the hospital's billing desk and signed a check large enough to cover everything. He didn't leave his name, just initials. He told the staff, "Make sure she never finds out who paid." That night, as he sat in his car near the parking lot, he saw Lana exit the hospital, looking up at the night sky. There was a quiet relief on her face, a peace he didn't deserve to witness. He closed his eyes, whispering to himself, "I'll make it right, even if she never forgives me." The following morning, he received an email from his assistant about an anonymous donation the foundation had received, Lana's message of gratitude attached. She had written, "To whoever helped us, you restored my faith in humanity." Tears slipped down his face. For the first time, the man who once said he owed nothing finally understood what it meant to give everything. Weeks passed, and James kept visiting the small coastal hospital in secret. He never approached, only watched from a distance as Lana's life unfolded through the glass. He saw her laugh with other parents, saw the girls run through the garden, their tiny hands clutching flowers. It became his silent routine, a man with everything silently watching what he once threw away. But one afternoon, fate no longer allowed him to hide. Lily's condition worsened suddenly and chaos filled the corridor. Doctors rushed past him, and Lana's cry broke through the noise. Without thinking, James ran forward, his heart pounding. He didn't care who saw him. When Lana turned, their eyes met for the first time in 2 years. She froze, disbelief washing over her. "James?" she whispered, breathless, pain and anger colliding in her expression. "Why are you here?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. Only when the doctor stepped out and said, "She's stable for now," did he finally breathe. He followed Lana into the room, his steps uncertain. Lily lay pale but peaceful. James knelt beside the bed, his hand trembling as he touched the child's small fingers. "She looks like you," he murmured, his voice breaking. Lana stared at him in silence, unsure whether to push him away or let him stay. Then he whispered, "I was wrong, Lana, about everything." Tears filled her eyes. "You can't undo the past," she said softly. James nodded. "No, but I can fight for the future." The words carried no pride, only truth. Weeks later, he moved closer to the town, quietly helping the foundation and being there for the girls. It wasn't redemption overnight, but it was a start. One evening, as the sunset painted gold across the sea, Lana watched him playing with the children, their laughter echoing. Her heart, still cautious, found warmth again. Sometimes regret becomes the doorway to grace. And for James Holt, that day, love finally began, not as a perfect story, but as a forgiven one.